In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the cutest little reindeer nail art. I think it's the cutest one I have ever made, and I think it's the cutest one I've ever seen too. It's so simple, it's so straightforward, and if you wanted to make it more wearable, you could make it where the antlers and the ears were flush with the nail instead of sticking up and out, and that would make it so it wouldn't catch on things, and you could definitely wear it, especially if your nail is just a pinch longer. I hope you like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
I am going to begin by applying an overlay of the darker of my reindeer background colors. So this is going to be kind of a medium tan, but it could be darker than this. I wouldn't go all the way to like a chocolate brown just because you won't see the eyes and the other features quite as well, and there won't be as much of a contrast from the background to the horns. But if you wanted, it could be darker than this one. I'm then going to encapsulate my nail with a layer of clear acrylic. This is entirely for strength. And so after I have that all encapsulated, make sure that your apex is in place. Then you can go ahead and you can file this nail into shape. Alternatively, if you would want to do this with gel polish instead of acrylic for at least this part, you certainly could. You could paint the nail with gel polish either before or after it was filled or encapsulated with the clear. Now I'm going to take my lighter shade, kind of a cream color, and I'm going to be applying that for the lighter portions of my reindeer's face, kind of think of it like an M shape at the tip of the nail, so like a bump up and towards the center, and then the same thing on the other side, bump up towards the center. I am not going to make a precise line at the top of this creamy area, but more of a padded out, faded line. It doesn't have to be a perfect blend, but just so it's not such a harsh line. Same thing, if you'd prefer to do this with gel instead of acrylic, you certainly can. Then right at that spot where it points down towards the middle, where the two bumps meet, I'm going to take my glitteriest red acrylic and I'm going to sculpt an oval for my reindeer's nose. I would use a 3D product for this just because it does add to the cuteness element. But if you wanted to not have this be acrylic and you wanted to do like a gel, mix in some red glitter and kind of bubble it up, you could definitely get a nice dome out of that. So I'm going to take and just gently press it. I want this to have a nice smooth domed appearance. One thing you can do that can help, whether it's gel or acrylic, is by flipping this nail upside down. As that product settles, it will create a nice soft dome shape. That is, of course, if it's not behaving just on its own. Now with some black acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting my reindeer's eyes. This is going to be just like directly up from the sides of the nose. So that proportion is going to add to the cuteness element of it. Eye position, eye size, all of that is so relevant to the cute element. So you're going to go straight up from the side of the nose, and it's going to, like, if you think of drawing like a little X, like crossing off the nose, straight line from the bottom, straight line from the top, go a little bit up from that, but that's about where you want to place that eyeball. So just a little bit up, a little bit out, that's the spot. Repeat that process on the other side. This is also right about at the top of that, where that lighter color transitions into the darker color. That's where those eyeballs are going to go. I prefer to sculpt these details with acrylic. I feel like I have more control than I would with a gel product as far as getting them to be the same size, because you can look back and forth and press them in. I find that easier for me. If it's not easier for you, switch your product line and do whatever works the best. So now, because I do want this to be a little bit 3D and over the top, because that's just kind of who I am, I'm going to be sculpting my reindeer's ears and horns on a nail form backing, and then I'll be able to attach them later. So I'm going to first sculpt one of the ears. This is with the darker shade of acrylic that we've used already, the darker tan color, and then I'm immediately going to begin sculpting the second one right next to it. Try to make them as close to the same size as you can. Of course, just eyeball it. Otherwise, you can draw a little template for yourself if that makes you more comfortable. And I'm going to wait until they begin to turn matte. You can see that first one I sculpted is definitely at that stage. I was kind of pushing my time there. And I'm going to gently fold it and then press it at one side of my petal shape. So you don't want to press it closed on both sides, but you do want to fold it over and press it on one, because this one was starting to cure a little quicker than I was expecting it to. It did not want to stay closed with just my brush, so I used my finger just to hold it shut. I am wearing gloves, so I do feel comfortable doing that. I'm now going to repeat the process for the other one. Same thing. That one's like, oh, I'm going to cure super quick today. Every once in a while, the room is warm enough and things just move a little quicker. After both ears are at the same point and they're staying closed enough where you're like, okay, I can leave you guys alone. You're going to behave. Then you can place the lighter color inside the ears. I mean, you could use a lighter shade they've already used within this design, like for instance, the cream color. But I wanted to use pink inside the ears. It's not a super bright pink. It's a very like muted, dusty rose type of a pink. So it doesn't show up as like an obnoxious color that's going to clash with the red nose. It's just going to be a nice kind of soft blushing inside the ears, which is the goal. So I'm going to do that. But like I said, if you wanted to use the cream color, that would also be an excellent option, especially if you don't have as many colors at your disposal as I do. After I have those done, then I'm going to move a little bit up on my nail form backing away from the ears, and I'm going to be sculpting my antlers with a chocolate color brown. I have people occasionally ask me, what if I don't have so many colors of acrylic? What am I supposed to do? What can you do in that circumstance? So buying colors of acrylic is definitely an investment. Each jar is, depending on where you go, like $8 to $30, give or take. And so it takes a lot to get a large acrylic collection, even if you just pick one up here and there that strikes your fancy. And the thing that you could do in, for instance, this circumstance and this type of a design is, you can mix your own colors of acrylic. You could take the darkest shade of brown, add a little bit of white for your medium brown and a little bit more white for your lightest brown. That would be probably the easiest option. Or you could take the medium brown and add black to make it darker, white to make it lighter, if you do have those other colors. Otherwise, you could sculpt this whole thing in clear acrylic and paint it all with acrylic paint or gel polish. That's more work, of course, because you are adding extra steps to your design process. But if that's what makes it so that you're able to sculpt something crazy and practice that skill set, absolutely go for it. Sculpt things with colors that are inappropriate too. If you've got pink and green and you want to try sculpting a reindeer, make a pink and green reindeer. I don't think there's any reason to let your color selection hinder you from trying something, especially if you're just doing it for yourself and for practice and for just seeing how the skills work. I would recommend, just going for it. That's my thought. So anywho, we've got our two antlers. Same thing. If you're not comfortable sculpting both of them just side by side and looking back and forth to make sure that they are the same size and the same shape, draw yourself a template on a piece of paper and then lay your nail form backing on top of that so that you have something to guide you. I'm now going to place a tiny little drip of nail glue onto the top corner of my reindeer's head. And because nail glue is just the bane of my existence, it is not going to hold the ear, of course, because why would nail glue cooperate with me? It just can't do that. So after I've got it where it's almost thinking about holding my ear, I'm going to grab more of that tan color acrylic, the darker one, and I'm going to secure that ear in place with just the tiniest little blob. This first little blob is acting as glue. It's not acting as a smoothing agent. It's not acting as much for security. It is just going to temporarily hold that ear where I put it. I am using my finger, as you can see, to prop up the ear, hold it in position as they are beginning to cure into place. I'm not even going to bother trying to glue the second ear. I'm going to go straight in with the acrylic. I don't know why I keep trying to use nail glue. I really don't. But I'm going to use just acrylic. Go ahead. Same thing. I'm just gluing that one down. I'm not really trying to smooth it out perfectly, maybe a little bit just to kind of get that process started. But once your ears have started to hold their own, you can move your finger that's supporting them and they don't slide or turn or fall right off. Then you can use a little bit more of that same color acrylic and really blend them. The reason you don't want to try to blend them out initially is because you kind of use a little bit more pressure when you're blending them out. You're brushing on them a bit more and you're going to move them. And when you're first gluing them into position, you don't want them to move. You want them to stay right where you put them so that they're not going to break. And as that acrylic begins to cure, if they do move around, if whatever it is that you're attaching does move and shift, you're going to create little fissures in that starting to harden product, which is going to weaken it and make it a little more fragile and affect the longevity. So you want to not try to mess with it too much when you're just in that beginning stage of attaching things. So we've got the second ear blended out nicely. Hopefully your acrylic is one where you don't see any big color change. I know there's certain colors of acrylic I've used where just because of how much monomer is on your brush, the color's not consistent. And since we have this same color blended into 3 different spots, the ear, the background, and then this little transition area, hopefully it blends out very nicely. It doesn't look like it's all different parts. It looks like it's all the same animal. I am now going to go back to that terrible nail glue and I'm going to glue my antler down because I did just dip my antler into the glue and I didn't try to brush it on the nail and then place the antler. I feel like I have better success. So that first antler is in place. I am once again using my finger as a propping tool. I am now going to glue my second antler in place, dip that end into my nail glue, and then set that down, hopefully. So sometimes with these things, you know, they're easy and they're straightforward, but it's the putziest parts that just fight you. Second antler in place. Breathe a sigh of relief. Phew, everything is on here now. And this shouldn't come as too big of a surprise, but go ahead and blend these antlers down onto your reindeer's forehead. All of these parts are a little bit delicate, so if you are going to be wearing this on your nail and you're going to have it on for any period of time, I would definitely recommend turning this nail over and applying some clear acrylic behind the antlers and behind the ears. However, if you're just doing it for practice, you might not have to worry about that particular step. So now I'm going to take acrylic paint and I'm going to be using that to add the other little decorative elements to my reindeer. I'm going to give him eyebrows because I think animals with eyebrows really are adorable. And again, I'm going for cute here. And then a tiny little smile. I'm using a chocolate brown shade of acrylic for this. I didn't go straight in with black. I thought that a more subtle soft touch would be welcomed here. And then I'm going to apply some matte top coat. This is not gel, this is just traditional top coat over the whole little reindeer, and then glossy gel sealer over the nose. And that's it. It's quick, it's easy, and the cuteness level is just off the charts. I hope you guys enjoyed this one as much as I do. If you have any questions or if there's any thoughts or concerns over the process, definitely let me know. I am here to help, and I will see you all next time. Bye.